All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to, well, at least on the video side anyway, a live post-game edition of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Big thank you to everyone out there, as always, for watching, for listening, following, subscribing. You guys are the best. I appreciate y'all very much. This episode is presented by Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbott Road, Lackawanna, just minutes away from Highmark Stadium. As always, with these Buffalo Bills post-game shows, especially on the video side when I'm live, I'm joined by Joe from Queens. Joe, 48-42, the Buffalo Bills beat the Detroit Lions. By the way, a scoregami. And for those of you who don't know what that means, a scoregami means something that's never happened before. 48-42, the first 48-42 final in NFL history. This game, the Bills are 11-3, still very much in the hunt, actually, for the number one seed, where the Lions fall to 12-2. You might see these teams again, and I don't think that's hyperbole whatsoever. What's going on, man? Are you not entertained? You, everyone out there who's listening, are you not entertained? What a freaking football game that was.
I'm very, very entertained. It's been a wild 2 weeks in terms of the game quality we've seen with these offenses. This is my, as you know, it's my dream. I love offenses. I'd want 40 to 42 games or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, this was an epic. It was a fun, entertaining game. We'll go over the numbers, but 1,000 yards in offense from both teams, and I just cannot believe how good this offense has been performing. And if you were to, I said this on Blue Sky, I'm like, if you were to tell me before the season started, how good this offense would have been, it's going to be this good, where the Bills now have 11 games this year where they've scored 30 or more points. It's the most in franchise history. The previous record was 9. They broke it last week. But 11, and they got 3 games left. If you were to tell me, oh, that's going to happen, I'd be like, you're on crack. And here they are. They do it again, and it's a credit to Josh Allen, and he is. I think I said this last week or maybe the 2 weeks before. I said top 3 players of all time in Bills history. It's OJ, Bruce, Josh Allen. And I put Bruce 1, OJ 2, Josh Allen 3. I may swap Josh Allen for OJ for now. Because it's just
talent-wise, you're talking right now. Talent-wise, what he's doing on the field. I don't want to push back, but
dude, he has been the man for 6 years. 5 seasons
7,
now.
No, 6, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's been great since 2020. That's how you assess greatness. How are you with your peers? The guy has 10 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. You're not going to find that on your freaking stat board for other teams. Yeah. And he's just unreal, and I have to give him a lot of credit because he's very cerebral. The game, I hate to say this because it's so cliche, but the game moves slowly for him. He's just slow. He's just chill. He's doing everything. If you were a moron who hated turnovers, and I said moron. If you were I don't like his turnovers, you're happy. If you want him to get touchdowns for fantasy football purposes, you're happy. If you want him to get those 300-yard games, you're happy. I think you heard the podcast from a month ago where I said, you know what? Yeah, he's an MVP candidate. He's the leading guy, but his numbers aren't the same as they were the previous seasons, up until whatever that was, 10 games in. Well, now they kind of are, because in the last 2 weeks, he's just obliterated everyone. He's awesome. And just thank God, I don't know, I would buy Brandon Bean a shot or a whiskey or whoever the scout was that scouted freaking Montana or Wyoming, whatever the fuck state he came from, Josh Allen. Oh, by the way, I forgot. You see, we're so into this. I forgot to do my beer of the day. So
what is your beer of the day?
Okay, it's a Black Duck Porter. So I'm doing a black porter. Are you a porter fan? Probably not, right?
I am not.
You're not? Okay. Well, this has been sitting in my beer fridge for a while. One day I'm going to open this can. It's going to blow up in my face, probably. It's going to be hilarious. It's going to be good podcasting. But we'll find out if it's good or not. But yeah, just I am entertained, as you said. It's fun. We've come a long way, Pat. When we started doing this podcast, you and I, 2018, I think we started doing this during like the hell of Nate Peterman saga, and we saw Derek Anderson play. We saw, I don't know, Matt Barkley play that season was horrible. I was like, yeah, this is a great podcast, Pat. We're really in the epic times of Buffalo sports. And
I still remember 2018. I did a live show at Amherst Ale House with Tone Pucks, and it was for, I believe it was a preseason game, actually, where Josh Allen played against Carolina, looked pretty good. And we were like, well, there's something special about this guy. And then obviously he struggled very much early on. He was really inconsistent in his career early on. By the way, I want to invite people, again, on the video side anyway, this is live. Most people will be watching this or listening to this on demand. But there are some people right now checking us out live who are leaving comments. I'm going to get to as many as I possibly can. A couple throughout the show if they fit where we're going at a certain point. But a lot of these, if you're commenting, I'm definitely going to get to them at the end of the show while Joe is enjoying his beer there. Look, Bills scored 40-plus points back-to-back for just the third time in the history of this franchise. That tells you how rare it's been. They did it back in 1990, and they did it in 2021 for this game combined. This was a show, man. This was just... If you like defense, this game sucked. All right, let's just put it out there. But if you like unstoppable offenses, that's going to cause you anxiety for whatever team you're rooting for. This was a lot of fun. 90 points combined, 1,800 total yards, 12 touchdowns. You had everything, Joe. You had long sustained drives. You had explosive plays. You had everything this game. Here's the funnest stat of all. To me, this just tells you about the state of where the Bills offense is at. And we're going to talk about Joe Brady. We're going to talk plenty more about Josh, the running game, all these guys, all these contributors. The Bills scored a touchdown today on their first 3 drives, and they did it without throwing one pass to Keon Coleman or to Amari Cooper, who did not have a target this game. By the way, your number 1 wide receiver, Amari Cooper. That to me is just crazy. 3 touchdowns and your top 2 wide receivers, or at least your 2 boundary guys, didn't even get a throw. They didn't even touch the football, and you still scored 21 points on your first 3 drives. It is insane. The Bills have scored 90 points now in their last 2 games. They, by themselves, they have 1,004 total yards in their last 2 games. They're averaging 8 yards a play. They're averaging 5.8 yards per carry. And they've scored a touchdown 8 times in the 10 times they've been in the red zone. It's bonkers. 3 touchdown drives to start the game. We'll talk about how in a second here. If I would have told you the Bills are going to rack up all these points, you'd be like, yo, Keon Coleman's going to get off. Amari Cooper's going to get off. They didn't do shit. Mac Hollins, who's been really good lately, he didn't have a catch. Didn't matter. It didn't mean shit. This offense is just... in a good way, ridiculous, man. It's just ridiculous, man. I don't even know. I don't know how to describe it any more than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone eat,
fired up.
You're fired up. Yeah, it was just a different guy. Like every week, it's like Ty Johnson's your leading wide receiver, or leading. He had 114 yards today receiving. Who the F would have thought that? Even last week,
Brady.
So it's just like, okay, like. Who's Ty Johnson? Like, I just remember him coming out of nowhere last year, and like Joe Brady was like, "I like you. You're playing here and there." And like, who's this dude? And he killed it in the first quarter. Like he set the tone, Ty Johnson, with some of those designs, and Brady
first
drive, yeah. And Brady, like,
this was his best game of the year. Joe Brady, I'm talking about. This was his best, with the exception of the one, which I'll hit on at some point during the show, the one bonehead decision at the 1-yard line. That aside, this was Joe Brady's best game with coordinating. Joe, you're right. I mean, he saw something on film that where Ty Johnson can, he can exploit a linebacker who would be covered him. He knew it was coming, and he completely exploited it literally from the first drive of the football game.
Yeah, those designs are great. The misdirection, the bootlegs, the screen game getting involved. This just popped in my head, and I just wanted, just for shits and giggles sake, like, who's a better offensive coordinator? Would you Joe Brady or Brian Daboll? with Josh Allen. It's like,
do you get 2021 or 20 Josh Allen, or do you get 2024 Josh Allen? You might be the better offensive coordinator if you get to be the coordinator with 2024 Josh Allen, dude.
Well, I would say this, like, I thought
someone said to fire Dan Campbell in the chat. That's funny. Go on.
I thought, with Dable had Stephon Diggs, he had Cole Beasley, he had, like, I thought better talent at wide receiver than what Allen has now, and I think that should go in. And like, there's so much better balanced right now with Brady there. Like, you have to respect the running game. You didn't under Dable really at all, and what he's done, like the Lions aren't a bad defense. You know what I mean? They're a pretty solid defense, and they just got their asses handed to them. Like,
statistically, the Lions were near the top in defense this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they're banged up like the Bills, and they got a lot more banged up during this game too. Some significant season potential injuries for Detroit. I got to pull up one comment here, and I kind of want to stay on a little bit of a path, but respectfully, there's Mark who's commenting in the chat, says minimal output for Coleman and Cooper is a product of Hollins being on the field too much. Respectfully, I'm going to completely disagree with that. Minimum output for them is more of a product of, how about this stat? James Cook, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, 31 touches, 285 yards, 3 touchdowns. The 2 tight ends, Kincaid and Dawson Knox, had 9 catches on 10 targets. That's why there was no output for Cooper or for Coleman. They didn't need them. It wasn't even apparently, it wasn't part of their game plan. They ran the ball effectively, and they got the balls of the running backs and the tight ends, and they just feasted on the Detroit.
I am curious about this. I will look. I'm curious about the snap counts to see how much was Keon and on the field, and same with Amari, like tomorrow when that gets released. But to your initial point, look, every week it's a different guy making plays. Like, the tight ends were good today. They made plays, and it was both of them, for them, as you just read through their stats. And that's something that they have not been able to really do in a game. Even before that, before Kincaid got hurt, it was kind of like Kincaid would make his plays and Dawson would have his one catch for 4 yards, and I would be complaining about it on here. But they finally had both guys playing pretty well. And I don't know where Colleen's at these days. She's probably like, maybe she's somewhere, but like,
she's had it with you.
No, she digs me. But anyways, he has done great. Like, since Kincaid, like, Dawson Knox, he has done a fabulous job. And like, I have to give him credit for, like, look, he's not like, is he going to get 100 yards a game? No, but he has that tendency to make a big play in a game where it's like he had a one-handed catch. That was a big play.
Let's talk about that.
And
I'm glad you brought that up. Good job bringing that up, because with respect to Colleen, and by the way, if you're new listening, who the hell is Colleen? I think Colleen might be the world's biggest Dawson Knox fan. She likes to come into the chat or leave comments on the show, and if we are not kind to Dawson Knox, she does not take kindly to it. But to your point with Dawson Knox, he had a catch in the fourth quarter. It was on 2nd and 8. He was wide open, and it was a terrible throw from Josh Allen, and he fingertipped and caught it. I went back and I looked. Because of that catch, if he doesn't come down with that play, okay, there's 6:50 left in the game, and it's 3rd and 8, and the Bills are up by 10. And if they get a stop there on 3rd down and they force a punt, there's a lot of football game left. But Dawson Knox makes a very difficult fingertip catch, and the Bills ended up using 4 minutes and 50 seconds more of game clock in the fourth quarter because Dawson Knox makes that catch, in part, at least large part, because he makes that catch, and then they end up setting him for a field goal because things fell apart. That David Edwards fucking holding penalty ruined what would have been
a shot put,
the icing on the cake of the Josh Allen MVP campaign highlight reel with that touchdown pass. That would have been. But anyway, because Knox came down with that play, the Bills burned off nearly 5 more minutes of game clock and got a field goal out of it, where if he doesn't make that, and that was a hard catch, if he doesn't make that, who the hell knows how the game plays out? So anyway, while you were on the Dawson Knox kick, I just wanted to make sure I signaled that out, because I probably would have forgot about it.
Yeah, otherwise. It was a good play by him. And again, like, every week there's a pass catcher who, does his job, and it's been great. I'm thinking about I love Stephon Diggs. But I'm thinking of that tweet before he got traded where he's like, is Allen, like when someone said, like, what was the comment? Like, are you sure? Like, what if
he said you sure about him being a lead or someone out
or he could be a number one, he doesn't need a number one wide receiver. Well,
yeah.
Josh Allen does not need a number one wide receiver. He has gone into that like Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady was always to me the guy who always put numbers up. Didn't matter who his wide receivers were. It was Hogan, Edelman, like whoever. It didn't matter. Branch, get all those guys in there. He was putting up numbers. Allen's in that class right now where you can give him chicken poop and he'll make it chicken sal. You give him chicken sal, he'll make that into chicken barbecue wings or whatever the fuck. He has just been, I feel privileged to look. I watched the 90s Bills and maybe I'm in a different look. When I watched the Super Bowl, I was like 10 to 14 years old. So I wasn't a man yet or whatever you want to call it. And it was always fun. And I never felt like privileged to watch it until I looked back, like when I was, in my 20s, 30s, like, oh man, that was a great era. Like I feel privileged watching that dude. Like I'm watching like greatness. I'm just like, it's surreal to watch him because he's so freaking good. He is the best player in the NFL right now. As you said that last week, I'm going to steal your thunder. I'm going to steal the Scorpion Deathlock like Bret Hart did or whatever. I'm going to steal the take, the finisher. Like I'm privileged. It's amazing. Like I'm gushing all over him to watch that dude play. It's just,
I thought growing up, watching Jim Kelly play in the Bills. And look, Jim Kelly is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He took the Bills to 4 straight Super Bowls. I'm never going to forget about all that. My point was, I always thought Jim Kelly was going to be the pinnacle of Buffalo Bills quarterbacking. And if that held true, that's not a bad thing. Again, the guy is a top 10 to 20 quarterback in the history of the NFL. But what we're seeing from Josh Allen right now is just things that no one's seen before. I've said it a couple times recently. Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT because he's won 3 Super Bowls and he does some incredible things, and he probably is going to end up going down as the greatest of all time. But I think Josh Allen might be the best actual football player of all time. He just does things that no one else can do, and he does it all the time. But he's not doing it by himself. I mean, I want to go back to Joe Brady here for a second. You hit on Ty Johnson, and you're right. He saw something, Joe Brady, this week on film where the Detroit Lions linebackers and safeties or whatever could be exploited by these running backs. He made Ty Johnson a huge part of the passing game. Dude had 4 catches for 95 yards at halftime. You know what I'm saying? He had 2 catches for 57 yards on the very first drive of the game. So that was scripted. That was part of the game plan. I thought there were a couple times where he used Josh Allen effectively on design runs, not scrambles. I mean, he beat him with scrambles too, but Josh also had a couple design runs. I thought he had some really good run calls with James Cook, not just to, smash it down the middle or up the field and see if he could bust one out and bounce outside and bust a big one. I just thought he did a really good job with that. And again, 10 targets to the tight ends, 9 of them were receptions. And I'm going to make fun of myself a little bit here because I had Joe Yurden on the show on Saturday, a Bills Lions preview, and we do, every week our Bills bowl predictions I do. And I've been pretty good with them, but this week was not good whatsoever. I had the game going under 54.5, which is funny to think about. I also had both Montgomery and Gibbs going over 100 yards each rushing. Neither of them even hit 32 yards rushing. So that was ridiculous, terrible part on me. But what I will say is I did have one key to this game for the Bills that I really held true, and it was to keep the Detroit Lions guessing. Like they were on their toes, the defense, the entire game from the first series of the game. The Bills were not boring and conservative and, predictable. And I'll give Sean McDermott a lot of credit for that too, because he was not going to sit on, they had a 3-score lead, had 2-score lead throughout the whole second half. And they never got boring, smash mouth up the middle, Alec Anderson in the game, first, second, and third down, running the football. They kept them on their toes the whole game. So I know I hit on him already, but kind of want to circle back to Joe Brady. I just think he deserves an awful lot of credit. And if you're among those who have been talking about, hey, this coaching cycle, Joe Brady could be a head coaching candidate, this probably is going to be the game right now that's at the top of that resume.
Yeah, a couple things about the offense today. 559 yards total offense. It's the fourth most the Bills have had in team history. It's the most.
Yeah.
It's the most they've had since the overtime game against the Dolphins in 2015, Rex's last game. So there's only been a couple other games. You know, you said it. Like, the balance is what killed them. The Bills had 197 yards rushing today. They had Josh Allen running sweeps. You know, and they kept them off off the Lions' toes,
and look, they worked too.
Yeah, and just to give you some Lions stuff, this is just me box score scouting with the Lions. They've had only one other game this year they've given up 30 points. It was against Green Bay. They've had a ton of games with 20 points or fewer this year, and Josh Allen put a clinic on, and it's, you know, if you want me to be a little bit of a cynic, a little tiny bit.
No.
Little tiny. You're a cynic too. Hey, Sabres Twitter wants to kill you, allegedly.
We might get to that. Little spoiler.
I'm sure.
I'm Penny. We'll get to that a little bit. I went at it with Sabres Twitter on Saturday. Like that
everyone
they lost again, by the way. We might get on that later.
Everyone hates you. Anyways, but the last 2 weeks, this offense has looked like a machine, and it's been in the dome. And what have you and I kind of talked about a couple different times over the last couple years when it comes to weather? Like, do you want them in a neutral site where it's like a dome and like in nice weather? And it's like Exhibit A was last week with the offense. Exhibit B is this week with the offense. And it's kind of like, are you going to be able to do that when it's shitty weather outside?
Well,
and it's like, I'm just saying, in the playoffs, what do you mean? Well,
they scored 35 on Frisco with fucking 3 feet of snow on the ground.
Well, it wasn't that. Okay, it was. You're right. I'm just saying, but like,
you're not wrong about the dome. I did think about that. I'm like, imagine this offense in a dome 10 times a year.
Look, I'm just being a little bit like, don't play this clip on Twitter, because I know you will, and I'll get like, people will be like, good thing you're off Twitter. But no, I'm just saying, like, in general, like, the offense looked amazing in a dome the last 2 weeks, and it's like, geez, like,
I thought about that during the game. I thought about that.
You know, a little bit of like, because look, again, I'm just thinking about like, how's it going to look in December when right now they're what are they, 11-3 or whatever the freak their record is. Like, they're cruising, I feel, to the second seed. They're going to be the second seed. So you're going to get 2 playoff games at home. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I mean, look, it would be fun to be snowy, and, you know, look, they have proven they can play in the elements. They did that against San Fran, but I like that. What we just saw the last couple of weeks, you had balance. Like, it was perfect.
You would be a fool to not look at this offense the last 2 weeks and spend at least a few minutes saying to yourself, boy, if the Bills played in a dome 8 to 10 times a season, what this offense would look like. You're not wrong. It's true. But I also, again, this offense is so good right now that I'll go back to Frisco in a snowstorm, and they put up 35 rather easily against the San Francisco 49ers. And it's because,
absolutely, yeah.
And it's because, look, Josh is the constant. After him, though, it's week after week after week where someone else has kind of been like the big dog who's getting the big plate at table, you know, besides Josh. He's getting the first choice of leftovers anyway. And this week it was Ty Johnson. But look, going back to I want to throw some stats out there from this game because they just blow my mind. Josh Allen was 23 of 34, 362 yards, which was a season high, by the way. 2 touchdown passes. Next gen stats, I saw this on Twitter. He threw for 171 yards outside of the pocket, which, check this out, it's the most yards from outside the pocket that any quarterback in the NFL has thrown since week 14 of 2021. Russ Wilson. You have to go back literally 3 years to find a quarterback who threw for more yards in a game outside of the pocket than Josh did today. The running backs, they caught 8 passes for 156 yards. The wide receivers, 9 for $111, although 64 of that was on 1 catch with Keon Coleman. And again, the tight end, 6 catches, 95 yards. Rushing, James Cook, it was like quiet day. Well, no one. He had 105 yards and 2 touchdowns, man.
His touchdown run was awesome. His second one, I mean, he beat up people. His dreads almost got ripped off. He was awesome. It was beautiful. Well-designed play, too. Again, he beat one guy, and it's a touchdown because the Lions were literally guessing what was going on. And then Josh on the ground, 68 yards rushing with 2 more touchdowns. Should have been 3. That was Joe Brady's one gaffe of the game
late in the second quarter there. Receiving, like I said, Ty Johnson, 5 for $114. Kincaid had 4 for 53. And by the way, I've been saying 10 targets for the tight ends. It's not accurate. It was 7 targets and 6 receptions. But yeah, Ty Johnson was so big. The touches, all 3 running backs, they all had a big role in this game. And they also had explosive plays. There was sustainable stuff and then explosive plays. Ty Johnson, 33-yard catch on the first drive. Keon Coleman had a 64-yard catch. James Cook had a 41-yard touchdown run. Dalton Kincaid, who came back, by the way, after missing a month, you see what he could do out there. He had a nice 29-yard catch in this game. Mac Hollins didn't do shit at receiver, but he took an onside kick attempt and almost scored a touchdown. It's just, you name it, they did it offensively. This football game, man, is just, I shouldn't say I can't believe it, because I should. If you don't believe it at this point, when are you going to believe it? I mean, they're just doing this all the time. I guess what I'm stunned is going back to the beginning of the season. Even the most optimistic part of me never thought this offense would be the best offense that has been during the Josh Allen era, because these aren't on paper the best players that he's got around him. But this is the best offense that Josh Allen has ever been around. Are you at a point now where you could agree with that?
Yeah, I am. Yep. I definitely, because you know what? It's the balance. That's what's killing it. They never had balance. Look, I'm not saying I wanted balance in 2020, 2021. I didn't. And to me, those were the 2 best offenses I saw Josh Allen with, because that was when Josh Allen was on his A game, getting 300 yards. But they didn't have a running game. And I think in this era of what we're seeing, it's I hate to say it, because I have to, it's complementary football, and I hate that word complementary football, because the cover 1 guys got it tattooed on their asses. And that's kind of what they're doing right now, is like it's a balanced attack right now with that offense, and you don't know where you're going at. I just saw a tweet, or not a tweet, I'm not on that garbage anymore. A Blue Sky post. This is from Victoria Zeller, Dirtbag Queer. She's a great follow, by the way. Josh Allen, last 3 games, 1,020 yards in total offense, 13 touchdowns, 0 turnovers, 0 sacks. Imagine that. Again, I never was the guy that gave a shit about turnovers. I didn't care, but I know people did. They're gone. The sacks, they're gone. There was a time where I thought it was luck. It's not luck anymore.
Go back to this game. When you watch this game back, if you watch this game, condensed film for, all 22, whatever, if you watch this game back, all the plays he made on the move, on the run, I think he threw 1 pass there. You were like, ooh, man, that could have been a pick there. That's it. That's all you're seeing each week. It's not even like he's getting lucky, like he's flirting with danger every single week, 4 or 5 times a game, Joe. It's not. He's doing it. These numbers, and he's playing smart football too. That's the insane part, the Brady part, like you said.
He is so elusive in that when he gets out of that pocket. It's like defense has got to be scared. Like defensive corners are like, oh shit, like watch out, like because he buys time. He's like Roethlisberger. I remember he used to be someone that was really good with buying time when he wasn't big. He was big, excuse me. He wasn't like a scramble, but he would just kind of shift and move a little bit. And Allen can shift and move, but he could also run out of there really fast. But just what he does, how he's an unreal player. And that offense today was just unreal.
I want to put out real quick too, Larry, a good point too. Josh Allen went for extras after the game. He did talk about that briefly. Precautionary. He said he's good. He said he had a couple throws. It felt a little funky. He actually saw a couple throws that got away from him a little bit later in the game. I think, and we'll find out, he had 1 scramble on the right sideline. They showed the replay. He got hit really hard too. So everybody got shaken up a little bit. But anyway, they said he was good there. Defense. Well, let me say this about the defense. They were down, and this does matter. And look, they did not play the Arizona Cardinals today. Let's not lose sight of any of this, okay? They didn't play the Cardinals. They didn't play the Panthers. They didn't play, the Denver Broncos. This was the Detroit Lions, a team that came in killing everybody, won 11 in a row, and they weren't all chump games. Like, they beat Green Bay twice. They beat Minnesota on the road. Detroit Lions, by almost every single poll that you looked at, the number 1 team in the NFL with an explosive, balanced offense. And I want to put that out there. They played a tough opponent, and no Taylor Rapp, no DeMar Hamlin. Side note here, I'm done saying that I hope DeMar Hamlin, and I never hoped he got hurt, but I was like, I really like to see what this team has if DeMar Hamlin's not in there. Well, I saw it. I don't need to see anymore. Get well really soon, DeMar Hamlin. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but I am saying it. No Rapp, no Hamlin.
Dorian Williams, no Douglas.
No Russell Douglas. So 3/4 of your secondary is gone. Matt Milano gets injured in the second half. Dorian Williams got hurt in the first quarter and didn't play again to the end. More on that in a second. So the injuries were a factor, and I'll give the Bills a compliment on defense, and it's hard to compliment a defense that gave up 42 points. But I will say this, and we talked briefly before the show started. Dude, they held Detroit on the first 2 series of the game. They forced a 3 and out, and then they forced a punt on the second drive as well. That mattered. That gave the Bills an opportunity who deferred and kicked off. The Bills got up 14-0, and Detroit spent the rest of the game playing catch-up. So the Bills' offense was clicking, and the Bills' defense, at least early in the game, did their job. They held Detroit to 14 in the first half, like I said. So you had forced 2 punts, and they did stop the run. I thought Detroit was going to run the ball down their throat the whole game. In part, Detroit didn't run it much because they were down a lot, but they held the lines just 48 yards rushing. Season low, by the way. 3.2 yards per carry. And then they got a turnover, which mattered. Again, you got an extra possession because Christian Benford made a great play on Armin St. Brown, and Matt Milano bullied the loose ball and fell on it and got it. So give them credit for that, and I'm going to give one player specifically credit for the defense before we start killing them. Ed Oliver. I'm saying it, man. Ed Oliver was who they needed him to be. Somebody, Mike Parkdom from Trainwreck, said bullying works. Ask Patrick Moran, because I've been really, really hard on Ed Oliver for quite a while now, because this is why, Joe. This is why I'm hard on Ed Oliver, because this is what Ed Oliver is capable of being. Ed Oliver played, by the way, against one of the best centers in the entire NFL in Ragnow, and he had his way with him. This was far and away, the best game of the season for Ed Oliver. He had a sack. He had 3 quarterback hits. He was pressuring the quarterback. He was collapsing pockets. He looked pretty good against the run. This was as good as I've seen Ed Oliver play in a very, very, very long time. And I don't want to say he matters that much because you gave up freaking 42 damn points, but let's give Ed Oliver some props. You liked what you saw from him, right?
Yeah, I thought the defensive line played a pretty good game in terms of getting pressure on Goff, especially in the early part of the game.
Now, I'm hearing it from the peanut gallery, by the way. Go ahead.
Yes, it was a great Ed Oliver game. Like, he really did a fantastic job. He got in, he made some plays. You saw it. I thought Rousseau had some good plays too as well. I'm not as hard on the defense today. I know you're about to bury them.
I'm not going to bury them.
You're going to bury them. You're obsessed with the defense. Look, it was a tough game. They had a banged up secondary. Matt Milano got hurt midway through the game. I forgot where he got hurt. It was 28-40. It was 28-45 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like, okay, you go into that harsh of garbage time a little bit stats, because it kind of felt that way a little bit. And that's where, after this game, it's going to be hard to really look. I have concerns about the defense. It has not changed after today. I still have them. It's not worse. It's not better. It's the same. But in this game today, they started off really well, as you kind of declared it. And I do feel there'll be a lot of back and forth this week on.
Did you notice they played some 3 linebacker sets early on too, which was like, whoa. It's not just straight base nickel. They were kind of Bobby.
They had to. They
really.
They didn't have any cornerbacks yet, so they probably want to get their best players on the field. But it was one of those games where there was a little bit like Detroit's trailing. They're going down the field a lot. The passing, Goff had 500 yards almost, which is insane. To me. And I had him in fantasy, except I'm out of the playoffs, which pisses me off a little bit.
He had 5 touchdown passes too.
Yeah, and I'm eliminated. I got eliminated last week, which sucked. But I digress. But it's going to be this week, I feel, a little bit, when people talk about the defense. The film bros are going to be like, oh, you're just box score scouts and screw you. And then the box score scout's going to be like, it's 500 yards. That seems like a lot. There's a little bit, there's nuance in there. It started off well. The Bills got ahead. When you're up by like 2-3 scores, you're going to give up more points. You're going to give up a lot of yards here and there.
Yeah, but they made it look easy.
They did, but Pat, you got it. 3 guys out of the secondary is
yeah, for sure. Milano got hurt and didn't play near the end of the game either.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to, as I said, I do have concerns, but you have to also look at it this way. They stopped the run. And, some of it is, how many carries did the Lions have between their 2 running backs, if you can look that up?
Not a lot, man. Detroit ran the ball 15 times for the game for 48 yards. And let me tell you this, too. Jared Goff had 2 of those carries for 13 yards, including a 10-yarder. So let's take away, which was a scramble, because I was infuriated. As much as I love Ed and Dwayne Carter was in on that play, they should have had Goff there. But anyway, Goff got outside and he ran for the sticks. So he ran 2 times for 13 yards. So if you take that away, the Lions ran 13 times and the running backs only had 35 yards rushing. While they held Gibbs and Montgomery to just 35. David Montgomery had 5 carries for 4 yards. Holy shit.
But that's the thing. Like what I told you this 2-3 weeks ago. What's the best way the Bills can stop the run is if Josh Allen scores 1 billion points, because then you have to abandon the run. And that's exactly what happened. Like, they only ran the ball like 13 times with their running backs. So you could say, like, yeah, they slowed them down. It's just Detroit was like, shit, we're down by 2 scores. We're down by 3 scores. We're down by a bunch of scores.
If you go back to Detroit's game plan, I didn't like it. And I know Ben Johnson is like the big stud, the big superstar, but I think as somebody, we watch the Bills play every week, so we kind of know this. You want to wear the Bills down. You want to run on them. And I would say get them out of their base nickel, but Bobby Babbitt's credit, again, Dorian Williams had some 4-3 looks early in that game. He got hurt. More on that in a second. But the first series of the game, Detroit went 3 and out, and they were 3 incomplete passes. Or they were 3 incomplete passes. And then on their second drive, they had a punt, and they only ran the ball, 1 time. Goff got sacked there. They only ran the ball 1 time on their first 2 drives combined. And again, 2 punts, and the Bills got up 14-0, and then they're playing catch up the rest of the football game. So yeah, sure. Look, you're right. Nobody should be burying the Bills right now when you're down 3/4 of your secondary on the road against a 12-1 team with the, arguably the best offense in the entire NFL. The Bills are the best offense in the NFL. Yeah. Detroit's the second best offense in the NFL, in my opinion, anyway. But it's not easy to sit there and watch when you're trying to protect these leads and feel like the game should be over, and the defense just can't make any stops whatsoever. It kind of had shades of last week in a way, but the difference is that they did do enough early in the game, and especially Ed Oliver, who he was huge, man. And Christian Benford, that forced fumble play matters. If you could stop Detroit, it mattered. It was a 1-score game at the end. The Bills scored 48 points?
Yeah. 45. 45. I thought it was 45.
No, it was 49. 48.
No, it wasn't
48. It was 48.
48. All right.
They scored 48 points, and it still was a 1-possession game. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, but again, it was just like it's a tough, because a lot of it felt like garbage time, where the Bills were like, all right, go get your yards. But look, again, I still have concerns, but again, it's I do have concerns. I do. It's going back to last week's game, but again, just get a couple stops and let Josh Allen score. And they got to get healthy, obviously. I don't know, I know you got to watch the film while I'll be passed out sleeping. Matt Milano, did he have a play? He did a good play today. Didn't he do something today?
Well, here's the good news. The good news was this was easily the best, and we'll watch it back, but just in real time, this was easily the best game he's had of the 3 that he's been back. He had a couple nice tackles. He was pretty good in coverage. And again, he was there and fell on the ball and took it away from a Detroit guy and got the Bills in possession. That's the good. He had a couple, he had 1 missed tackle where he whiffed pretty badly. It didn't look like he wanted to stick his arm out. I feel like an open field, that could be an issue with him missing some tackles, because maybe he doesn't want to get that right arm extended all the way out. He's afraid he's going to hurt it. But the bad news is he got hurt in the second half. A groin injury. and he didn't return. He was on the sidelines, but yeah, he hurt his groin and he did not return to the football game. Obviously, that is a concern. We'll talk about it in a few here before we wrap up, but you look at their schedule the rest of the year, like they're at home against New England next week. I think anyone on this team who's got any sort of injury whatsoever is going to get an extra week to recoup. Like if DeMar Hamlin and Rapp are 85 to 90% and you're playing the Patriots at home, I'm not playing them again next week. You'll probably be slow with Milano. I'll say this. I hate to put it on one guy because a lot of guys on defense played pretty well. Two guys.
There we go.
There were a couple guys. There were two guys on defense that really struggled, and Cam Lewis was one of them. But look, man, it's a big ask to go in and start. He's been playing slot nickel all season long, and playing the dime in their dime defense. And the ask to go in against an explosive Detroit Lions team and play free safety and start. It's a big, big ask. He had a couple moments, but he got beat pretty often. Not a good game for Cam Lewis. Again, to be fair, expected. Cole Bishop, who he had cramping, I think he'll be fine. But he got beat deep and he got lucky. Jameson Williams, it would have been a holding penalty anyway, so I don't want to count him. But he got scorched again. He's played 2 games this year and he's gotten scorched deep twice. Didn't end up mattering this time though. Like I said, Taylor Rapp, DeMar Hamlin, getting them back, I think will be big. But the one thing, so Dorian Williams plays early. He gets hurt. He hurts his elbow. And they didn't want to put him back in the game. And then when Milano got hurt, they went to Balin Spector. If we were doing a Mount Flushmore tonight, I would give him Mount Flushmore, all 4 of them by himself. That guy, and I'm sorry, and he's just coming back from IR. I don't get what it is that Sean McDermott or Bobby Babbage see in Balin Spector. I'm sorry. I just don't. To me,
you want Buffalo Joe in there, the other guy?
Yes, I'd rather have Joe from fucking Queens in there.
Oh, me,
than Balin Spector. Yes, I'm sorry. I would.
Coach over here.
He was. Listen, again, if he wasn't ready to play, don't activate him from IR. So I don't want to hear that his first game back. Yada yada. Every time he was in the game, Detroit in the second half, immediately. Do you think there's no coincidence whatsoever that the Bills defense had some success in the first half and 0 in the second half with Balin Spector on the field? I'm telling you, they went after him every single time. He was an eyesore. He was a visual eyesore for the Bills defense out there. At one point, I'm screaming at the TV, you're up 3 scores. Why are you not playing a dime defense? Get your Marcus Ingram on the field. Get 7 DBs out there. Get Balin Spector off the field or put Buffalo Joe in the game, whatever. And that's not me being, hey, Mr. Buffalo fan, go Buffalo Joe.
That's you.
No,
that's you.
No.
You love those
Balin
people.
Spector was horrific in this football game. He just was. Here's how bad he was. They had to, at one point, put an injured ass Dorian Williams back into the football game because Balin Spector was so bad that they had to put Dorian Williams back in. You go watch the last 5 minutes of that game. Dorian Williams was hurt, did not play for 3.5 quarters. All of a sudden, he's playing in the last 5 minutes of the game. Why was he playing? Because Balin Spector was awful. If I'm Bobby Babbage,
he's a backup linebacker. What do you want him to be? Like,
better than what he was.
Okay, whatever, dude. He's not a very good player.
Then he shouldn't be on the field.
But you want the Buffalo Joe guy in who hasn't done anything because he had a good preseason.
I want him to play if
dude,
the
this is what happens when
Spector.
You're down to your freaking third linebacker. Richard Rush. I agree with Pat too. Spector was terrible. But what do you want? He's a backup fucking linebacker. What do you want? What do you think? Like,
I got AJ Klein against Chiefs. I had AJ Klein against Kansas City Chiefs vibes from the playoffs last year when Balin Spector was on the field.
Sure. I mean,
they got a 5th round guy, Olafosio, who was inactive for this game. Joe Andreessen did not play.
Sometimes with rookies. I don't know.
They got to come up with something. They got to do something. Balin Spector, other than Tyler Bass missing a field goal that could be the nightmare ending of a playoff loss.
Yeah, let's talk about him. That's a bigger concern to me than fucking Balin Spector for now. Well, okay, you're insane.
Oh no, I'm concerned. Okay.
Well, it's a bigger one, okay? Like
he made a 50-yarder though to kind of redeem
yeah. Then he missed a
24-yard.
Like, how do you miss a 24?
He's a head case. You got it, but you know what?
He's not knows if he's a head case. I hate the look. You don't know if he's a head case. his tactics may be off. Who knows? I don't know why he's missing those. Like, it's easy to say, like, he's a head case. What is he, psycho?
You
Does he need to go see a therapist?
You can't
Does he need Playboys like Rube Baker? Like, what the fuck? I don't know.
You can't say nothing nice about him. As soon as you say something nice about Tyler Bass, he goes and does what he does. But you're stuck with him. You got to get through the season. You get through the season. I don't care what the dead cap is. You're going to move on from him. You're going to draft somebody. You're going to sign somebody. You're going to do something. They're going to move on from him after the season. I feel like that's a lock. But they're stuck with him this season. One other point about Balen Spector that's a couple of people have actually made in the chat that's fully true. On top of him being a liability on the field, even if you did like his game, he can't stay healthy. He gets hurt all the time. You can't.
We're talking about him too much. Anyways, if anyone in the chat,
a big part of the game. Big part of the game.
It was garbage time when he was in there, dude. Like, look, I agree with you. He's not very good. Okay, so like, I agree with you.
It was not garbage time, by the way. It was not garbage time. Garbage time is when there's no chance you're going to lose a football game.
They're not losing. They were up 42, 45 to 28 at that point.
Detroit kept coming right back.
But it was still, there was no, they were going to get a bunch of chunk yards. That was it. I don't know.
You're talking like they're playing the Cleveland Browns. This wasn't the Cleveland Browns out there, dude. This was the Detroit Lions. The game was never. You're telling me you thought that game was never in doubt? Yes, are you crazy?
At 45-28, it was over.
So the onside kick, 12 seconds left in the game.
Okay,
you're telling me you weren't having a mini heart attack, wondering if the Bills came down with that football.
I would have laughed if they somehow blew it, but like I wasn't. For most of that, when it was 45-28, I was like, whatever, they're fine. Like, whatever. It wasn't. I wasn't worried. It was one of those. Look, as I said, I don't think that game was as close as the box score indicates. I really don't.
I agree with that.
So that's why I'm not nervous. I don't. I'm not. But look, Balen Spector is a liability. He's not great, obviously. So we need Milano to be healthy. We need Bernard to be healthy.
Williams.
And now here's the thing, Bam. This is going to be the big thing coming up. Like, how much are you going to rest guys these next 3 games? Because look, you should. Look, I'll say this. They should beat New England pretty handily. The Jets, I don't want to, like, it's very easy to take a colossal shit on the Jets, but the Bills almost did lose to them in like 2 months ago, whatever. Mm-hmm. I know it's a different time now, and they probably are, like, going to their retreats, blah, blah, blah. But now it's kind of like, are you like, let's just get these guys healthy? And you're kind of like, yeah, we'll play Josh Allen, we'll play these guys, and then, like, other guys, like the defense, because, like, that to me is the biggest kryptonite to worry about. I'm having, and I'm sure you do too. You just talked about AJ Klein. I'm sure you have nightmares about AJ Klein. I have nightmares of the injuries in 2022 when they were missing a lot of guys in the lineup when, Hyde was out and God knows whoever else. Like right now, they are, as we, they're healthy. I know Milano left the game and
are they the best team in the NFL? The Buffalo Bills.
Let me finish my fucking point, and then you can go into that. Jesus Christ. I'm making the point. Like, do you want to rest guys? That's what I'm saying. Like, do you want to rest guys? Because you're scared of Balen Spector. So do you want to, like, play Balen Spector the next week so Matt Milano's 100% and you save him for the playoffs? That's what I'm asking you. Like, do you really care about winning these games? Because you probably will. They're shitty teams you're playing. Like, do you care? What do you care more about? Let me ask you this. What do you care more about? Do you care more about being the 2nd seed, or do you care more about health?
Well, of course, anybody would care about health more.
Okay. So, like, that's what I'm asking. Like, how much are you going to be playing these guys? Like, are you going to be like, shit, like, let's let Josh Allen, like, hopefully kill people, and then you can rest your defensive guys? Because I'm saying there's a nightmare scenario, like going back to the last 2 postseasons where they've had key guys on the defensive side of the ball specifically were out, and like I'm just saying, like, you're gonna worry about that. But anyways, to answer your question, because you don't care about my question anymore, do I think they're the best team in football right now?
How are you thinking on this?
Shut up and let me think. Fucking hell. I'm not like you who's pandering to everyone. I mean, I think they're the best team in the AFC, without question.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles are an interesting team. I mean, they beat the Steelers today, right? I'm dad, man.
Yep.
They beat the Steelers. Steelers are a good team. They're not garbage. The Eagles the Eagles are like a mess. Like, they're hilariously a mess, kind of. And they've won like 10 straight games, but they hate each other. So, I don't think I don't know if they're the best team in football. I don't know. They're a map. Look, they got the best player in football right now. I still, it's hard for me to say that because look, this defense, I am worried about this defense a lot. I think for the Lions, they probably had one of their, like, you could say for their defense, like statistically speaking, they've been good this year. This is probably their like shitty game. And
sure.
Yeah, I don't know if they're definitely a Super Bowl team. I don't know if they're the best team in football. I don't want to go like I'm sure there will be a lot of that in terms of the best team, and I'm not going to besmirch that. But the Eagles look like the Eagles are a good team right now. And it's between them and I still think the Lions are in there. Like one game, it's tough. Look, I hate. Like, what about you? You answer your question.
I was going to say,
I know you want.
I want a 20-minute analytical breakdown if they're the best team right now.
Fuck off.
Okay, they are.
Okay. So
yes, they are. That's my answer right now. Philadelphia.
Congratulations. Clip that tomorrow. You could be like, I think they're the best team ever, and Joe doesn't know. Clip that tomorrow on the Twitter.
I do want to go back to what you said because you did have a good point. I was just fucking with you.
Thanks.
You did have a really good point about the end of the season and how the Bills should play it out. If a player is injured and they're on the line, on the fence about coming back, no, then they're not playing. But you don't just rest guys to rest them until you get to week 18 if you got nothing to play for. But here's the thing. So the Bills right now are 11-3. Kansas City still got a 2-game lead, and there's only 3 games left, right? But here's the thing about the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, I don't know if you saw, Pro Football Talk reported per a source that they said Patrick Mahomes has a high ankle sprain and he's week to week. They're down, so they're down potentially Mahomes for multiple weeks, okay?
Maybe.
Their next
you can
2
play
games
with a high ankle sprain. I've seen guys do that before, but go ahead.
Whether they do or not, okay? He's compromised. Let's just say best case scenario for Kansas City, he's compromised. Anyway, here's my point. The next 2 games the Chiefs play on short rest for both of them is they're playing Houston and then they're playing Pittsburgh. And the Pittsburgh game's like on 4 days rest, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be the same for Pittsburgh too. But they're playing 3 games. They started today, 3 games in 11 days. Mahomes could be out. They could lose to Houston. Dude, they almost lost a lot at team. I don't even need to get into what their seasons look like this year. But here's my point. Houston and Pittsburgh, those are 2 games, and then they play Denver in week 18. So if they haven't clinched or whatever, Denver's not an easy out either. So they got Houston, Pittsburgh, Denver. The Bills, there's no way the Bills should lose any of their last 3 games. If the Chiefs lose 2 of those 3, the Bills are still in play for the number 1 seed, and it remains that way until they're not. So if you're the Bills, you are still you're doing everything you can to win. You're not concerned about anything else except winning.
So you're picking, you're contradicting what you said 10 minutes ago. You care more about the second seed than you do about health. Because
this is the number 1 seed, Joe.
Okay,
this is the 1 seed.
Right. All
Big difference between the 1 and the 2.
Okay,
but here's the thing.
I'm just saying, okay, you're right, I guess.
Here's the thing with the 2 seed. If the Bills win 2 of their last 3 games, it don't matter. They can't be any worse than the 2 seed. So if the Bills beat New England at home, which I'm going to go on a limb next week and say they do, and then they beat the Jets at home, which, whatever, I still think they're going to beat the Jets at home, even though the Jets, whatever about them. But if they win those 2 games, going into week 18, if you got something to play for, your starters play. If you don't, they don't. But if the Bills should not be any worse than the 2 seed. And I'm just saying the number 1 seed is still very much at play. And the number 1 seed does matter because you're literally not playing if you're in the number 1 seed in the wild card round. So it could still go either way is all I'm saying. I want to get to, before we get out of here, I got a couple of these that I bookmarked. I want to bring up.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, ask us right now so Pat can address them.
Alex Barber said Ed Oliver was saving it for the big games, it appears. Well, I'll tell you what, thanks for that. Ed Oliver needs to be a star in the biggest moments. The last 2 years and the elimination losses in the playoffs, Ed Oliver has been completely non-existent. He played really well against the Chiefs too before about a month or so ago. So Ed Oliver's kind of been shitty this year. He's only got 2 sacks, but probably his 2 best games this year have been against Kansas City and Detroit. Quick side note, no more narrative that the Bills haven't beaten anybody this year. The Bills just beat the Detroit Lions and they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Probably the best 2 other teams in the NFL alongside Philly. So enough with that stupid sentiment. Sean Ryder said, was there any update on Milano and his groin? Not that I know of. We're recording this and streaming this literally just a half hour or so or an hour after the game. So I don't know.
But are you asking us for news? Come on. What do you think? We are news reporters over here?
I'll add this, though. I do think I have enough confidence in Dorian Williams that it's not like falling off a cliff. Like Rasul Douglas not being out there, although Kyrie Elam was okay today, man. Kyrie Elam didn't really hurt them.
Yeah.
He was all right, but you know what I'm saying? There's some guys in depositions, like Cam Lewis is playing free safety. I'm not a fan of that. I'm just going to say that. The drop-off between him and Rapp and Hamlin is significant. I don't think Dorian Williams to Milano is like falling off a cliff. Ariello Grande said, I want to only be happy. I'm happy, but not enough. This defense is concerning. Milano is straight up bad. Leaking a crack in the Niagara Falls Dam. Well, we kind of addressed that throughout the show. I thought this was the best of Milano's 3 games. I mean, there's a lot of room to get better, but
here's the question I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
Which offense in the AFC concerns you against the Bills? Like, okay, so let's say you're worried about the defense. Yeah, so you're worried about the defense. Which offense are you like, shit, I don't want to see them because our defense is it Baltimore? Is that
I would definitely not. I would say, well, no. The biggest offense, and it's not close either, by the way. The biggest offense is the Cincinnati Bengals, who probably aren't going to make the playoffs. As sure as hell hope they won today. They got 8 losses. They're not done, though. They're not done. But Denver winning.
You don't want, yeah.
Well, here's the good news. I do not. And people are like, oh, the fucking Bengals defense sucks. No, everyone scores on them. Sure. I don't need a 48-45 playoff game, all right? I want to play a team that cannot match firepower with the Bills' offense. Today, I think, Denver won, which is good for the Bill. If you want Cincy out, and Miami, who lost today, Denver won today, which is good, and also the Chargers won today, which is good. So a bad day to be a Bengals or especially a Dolphins fan because they lost. But anyway, the Bengals is number 1. Baltimore, I wouldn't be excited about playing Baltimore, but I'd feel a lot better about the game being in Buffalo than I would in Baltimore.
Why is that?
Because I just don't think Lamar Jackson's that good in the playoffs.
Okay, well.
And you're on the road, and it matters.
I guess more about the road, because like I look at Baltimore, they're a team that can run. So if you got shitty elements in Buffalo,
crowd noise, the inability to audible, sleeping in your own bed, just the routine of being at home.
I'd rather sleep in a hotel in my own bed. Okay, I got fucking room service. Like, fuck, I hate that excuse. I want to be in my own bed.
Mets fan 983 wants to know: is this a better team than the 13 seconds team? Not on paper, but they're better. But they're not on paper better. It's weird, and it's also early. If this team loses in the wild card round or the 7th seed, nobody's going to be saying this team is, one of the great all-time Bills teams. But
look, the 13-second team, the 13-second team, look, if you're looking in totality, they had a number 1 scoring defense that year. So they had a better defense, statistically speaking. The offense did score a lot that year. Like they had 9 games of 30 points or more that year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and that was a weird. I think this team's better. Like they've beaten better teams. I think maybe, but no, they beat the Chiefs when the Chiefs were really great in the regular season. It's tough to say. Again, I think
this team's more balanced. They can beat you in more ways.
That's the biggest look. That's the biggest thing. You said it right there. Yeah. Balance. They're better, especially offensively. They're better. The running game is what is completely different than 2022, 2021, 2020. That's the biggest difference. Defense is probably kind of the same a little bit. Like you still got your core guys that are still there. Unfortunately, like Von Miller's not what he was, before he got hurt. I mean, he's been fine, but like he's not what he was, unfortunately. But I would just how look. They're going to go as far as Josh Allen takes them, and that's basically the big thing.
I mostly agree with you. I don't entirely agree with you.
But Matt Barkley's got to take him there. Or what?
No. I do think that this team, if they need to, that they can run the football. If Josh Allen, if he's lousy, they're going to lose in the playoffs. If Patrick Mahomes is lousy, the Chiefs ain't winning. If Jalen Hurts is lousy, the Eagles ain't winning. But the Bills can run the football, and I do think they at least have the capability. Look, these last 2 weeks, they've played against really good offenses, okay, that can sling the football. Amon St. Brown, we didn't even hit on him. We didn't even mention his name today. St. Brown had like 14 catches for 10,000 yards. He had 193 yards. He was unbelievable. Puka Nacua last week was unbelievable. You're not going to see those wide receivers or much like them in the playoffs. I do think this defense at home especially is capable of carrying this football team. They did it to some extent against the Chiefs at home about a month or so ago. So I do think that it's not ideal for Josh to be less than stellar. I'm just saying, I think they could pull out a game, even in the playoffs, if Josh is just okay. If he's lousy, they're going to lose. Gets a few.
I'm going to give you a hot take.
Okay.
My concern, we should do this a weekly thing for the next 3 weeks, because like everything's kind of almost cement. Like, what's your fear factor of like the teams you got to play? Like, my number one fear of who I don't want to play, Baltimore. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I'm telling you, the Chargers are sneaky bad matchup for the Bills. That's number two. After that, I would probably go Pittsburgh, number three. Number four, the Chiefs. I'm not that scared about the Chiefs at all. I think the Chiefs are I've said this before. I feel the Chiefs. Fumes. Yeah, they're just they feel like, to me. I said this before. I'll say it again. 2019 New England Patriots. Look them up. They started off like 11-0. They were winning a lot, but it was mostly the defense was getting turnovers. Special teams was really good, and then they collapsed down the stretch, and they were out. It was Brady's last season. That's how I feel about the Chiefs. I feel like they're just on fumes a little bit, and maybe I'm wrong. They were on fumes last year. Blah blah blah. But I'm not scared of them. I'm like Kevin McAllister, Home Alone, like walking outside, being like, I'm not afraid of you anymore, and I'm not. But I do. What's your fear factor? Give me your three fears, your three fear teams.
I'm the complete opposite of you. I still had the Chiefs number one. Well, because they're proven.
I get it.
Hey, they won. Sure. They won. You got to beat them in January. And guys like Kelsey and Chris Jones and those guys play their best football when the stage is the brightest. I would feel better about it too if it was in Buffalo. But again, the Chiefs, they're going to win 2 or 3 more ugly ass football games, and they're going to limp into the playoffs. Maybe in Mahomes' case, literally in the playoffs. And they're going to be in Arrowhead, and they're really hard to beat there. So because they've done it, it would be them. And then Baltimore 2. I'd probably say the Chargers 3. I would, again, I don't want to play the Bengals, but the Bengals are nowhere near the playoffs right now. Yeah. So it's a good point.
I'll say this, though. The Texans have definitely kind of gone down a little bit I think CJ Stroud has been struggling. Like, he's not what he was last year a little bit.
I think they lose in the first round. They'll be at home, but they'll play probably Pittsburgh or Baltimore or the Chargers in the first round. And I think any of those teams will beat them. Let me jump to a couple more of these. Jeremy says Joe from Queens is the best. The fuck
Thank
he
you.
is. Michael Danny says, Lions fan here checking in. LOL. Tell you what, man, respect to the Lions. This was
Joe Yurden. Someone give Joe Yurden a hug.
I had Joe's in Toronto covering a shit Sabres team.
We got to wrap up on the Sabres at some point.
Who lost for a 10th straight game. No, I want to say this though. I like the Detroit Lions. They're fun. I think the average Bills fan, if you ask them who's your other favorite team besides the Bills, if the Bills can't win, who would you like to see win the Super Bowl? I'd be willing to bet that the Lions would win any poll with Bills Mafia. They kind of feel their pain to some extent. And again, this very well might be a Super Bowl or a preview of a Super Bowl. There's no guarantees, no guarantee either team gets there. But this is a game that the world would love to see again on a big stage. And it delivered in this game too. Let's see if I got a couple more here just to get done. I in the moment says if we get to a Super Bowl, it's because of our running game. They'll certainly play a role.
Sure. I mean, look, it
Richard Rush. We love pandering Pat.
I love it. Thank you, Richard Rush, for the pandering Pat thing. Get your t-shirts here at panderingpat.com.
Yeah, get them. By the way, good job throwing a little bit of shade at cover one with that comment too.
I'm sure you're gonna message me afterwards.
That was off the cuff. No, hey, dude, your opinion's your opinions. I've always said
I'm pretty witty.
You are pretty witty.
I'm pretty witty.
We are about to get out of here, but I will say, so you alluded to this. I got in a big ass fight with Sabres Twitter on Saturday because I'm sick of this fucking team. I'm not bad. I kind of had a tweet. They made it sound like I was bashing fans. I'm bashing the organization. Well, because I feel bad. I feel sorry for fans.
Yeah, but you bash the fans. It sounded like you're a loser if you're watching this team.
I mean,
and then that's you.
I want a clarification here. Here's the problem. I think I fucking tweeted about 10,
by the way, for everyone listening, the Sabres lost tonight. They've lost 10 in a row. It's fucking it's kind of it's hysterically terrible.
I mean, it wasn't even just fans. And here's my tweet. And by the way, this drew the ire of My friend Chanty Dominicus, Kevin.
He doesn't like you.
Respected hockey minds did not like my tweet.
I didn't like you either. I told you to delete it because you're a punk.
Yeah, I'm not deleting that shit. Fuck that.
You're a punk. I
said if you're not someone who covers the Sabres on some level and gave up a big chunk of your Saturday night to watch them lose yet again, that's not on the team anymore. That's on you.
Yeah, so you're being a dick because you watched that.
Don't blame the clown for being a clown. Blame yourself for continuing to attend the circus. That was my exact tweet.
Yeah, that was just a complete dick move. Especially you. Look, here's the deal. You want a basketball team. You probably want a Major League Baseball team. You probably want Joe Macy to come back. You want Mark Merrow to come back and be the champion above. You're not a hockey guy. Just admit it. It's okay.
I am a hockey guy. I want to be
a hockey guy. You're kind of. You don't have the passion. It's on the heart. You do this for coverage and fucking whatever. It's on the heart. That's it, and it's fine to admit that. It's fine.
It's not either. I like football a hell of a lot more than I like hockey.
I wouldn't say you hate it, but it's down the pecking order, and you're calling people like idiots for watching it. This comes from the guy who probably watched every drop, but you watched. I know, but the tweet came off as that. You were basically
it's not what my intent.
Well, that's why you're
on the organization because it's like why should you care about an organization? Why should you be committed to spending your valuable time on a Saturday night to an organization that is not committed to put in the best?
Because it's December in Buffalo. What are you supposed to do? Go to the fucking falls?
Saturday night's main event was on. Could have watched that.
I could have watched
Christmas. Could have watched some Christmas movies. Could have threw on some Christmas music. Fucking did literally anything.
Probably got 100 blocks based off that. I'm sure, like the fucking Manic and whatever.
I'm not wrong about the Sabres. There's no commitments to them. There's no commitment. Kevin Adams is in his 5th year. This team, if they lose Tuesday, listen, they just lost again. They've lost 10 straight games. They play on Tuesday at Montreal. If they lose at Montreal, guess what? The Buffalo Sabres, 32 games into the year, are dead last in the Eastern Conference. Not one of the worst teams. They're dead fucking last. Kevin Adams is in his 5th year as GM. Kevin Adams gives these guys stupid contracts. Kevin Adams embarrasses himself at press conferences, humiliates himself. He trades Jack Eichel. He can't get Jack Eichel or Sam Reinhart to want to be here.
Okay, you are mentioning the wrong person. It's the fucking owner. Terry Pegula is a micromanager. He uses Kevin Adams. He's involved. It's the worst kept secret. Everyone knows that. He is the guy. He is the guy. Kevin Adams is just a fucking pawn. And it's Terry Pegula's show. And Terry Pegula, I wish, he sold 20% of the fucking Bills this past week. He should have sold the Sabres. Like, he's an idiot. Like, and I say this he's an idiot. Like, yes, he's an idiot across the board. But, dude, sell the Sabres. You could be a god just for Bills fans. A god. Like, you got them great right now. You got them a stadium that you're paying for, the overtures, whatever the fuck. Like, you could be a god to Bills fans. For the most part, the Sabres fans want you dead. They want you out of here. Like there is no Sabres fan that it's like, oh man, thank God for Terry Pegula. There's none. They all hate him. They can't stand him.
They're fans out of fear because they're afraid that Pegula's going to sell the team and move it. People were literally saying that in the comments. I was like, they're not moving the relocate. That's the best defense people could have. People still care about the Sabres because if they don't, they might move. Literally, I've had many people say that.
I'm sure Terry would sell it to someone who wants to keep it here and like assures them.
I wouldn't be so sure about that, man. I would be sure about that.
Anyway, look, your tweet sucked. Your tweet sucked. It was wrong. Shut up. Let me finish, and then we can go off into the sunset.
No, because I got one more. Someone left a comment about the Bills. I need to circle back with something we didn't talk about during this episode.
Sure.
And then we'll get out of here. Look, we'll save a Sabres beef. Maybe for a live show later.
Yeah, no, you just want a little bit of
a preview there. Might be doing a little something live with Joe around Christmas time. Live in person, I meant. But anyway,
I'm not going now. You've alienated the Sabres fans. They're going to come and kick our asses now because you pissed all of them off.
Noble put up a comment that's worth sharing, and I want to close with this. He says, McDermott takes a bunch of crap, understandably, but this is a coaching win versus a depleted defense in the back end. Who put the hot branding from ass on Ed Oliver's ass to make him play like he did? Let me say this, Joe, and thank you very much, Steve. That's a good observation there. We'll call it an observation. We talked about, not necessarily everyone, about how great the Detroit coaching staff is, and it is. Campbell's a great coach. Ben Johnson is the guy, the offensive coordinator. Aaron Glenn is a hot name in head coaching circles come the offseason for sure. The coaching for them has been great. I thought the Bills' coaching as a whole was really good. We talked about Joe Brady. I thought Bobby Babbage was aggressive early in the game, played some 4-3 looks early in the game. That's really cool. But listen, Sean McDermott did a good job. He got that, whatever the message was of the defense early in the game, or at least for the defensive line to play well. I thought the defensive line did a pretty good job of pressuring Jared Goff the entire game, even though Detroit had a lot of success. They did have 3 sacks. They had a lot of pressures on him. The Bills' back end was just decimated with injuries. That's what it is. But Sean McDermott, to his credit, did have this defensive line fired up, ready to play, and they did have 3 of their starting 4 guys in the secondary out. And he also was aggressive. I remember it was a 4th and 3 or something like that early in the game, and they went for it around midfield and converted, and they scored a touchdown on that drive. So sure, look, I'm going to give Sean McDermott a lot of shit, and I'm sure I will the next time. Actually, the next time they lose might be the last time they lose with their next 3 games on the schedule here. But yeah, I think it's a good point. I think Sean McDermott deserves some credit. I thought he had a pretty good game. I really did.
You agree? Can you see me, or is it over?
No, I can see you.
Okay, my computer like froze, so get the hell out of here before
my
screen went dark, so I don't know what happened.
There's nothing really to add, but anyway, I just wanted to point that out at the end. I thought that was a good point about Sean McDermott, and yeah, on that end, going to end this episode. I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. I'll be back. Biggest takeaways from this game coming up on the show tomorrow.